since Arly Hanks had skulked back home to become the chief of police and the entirety of the department. But, Jim Bob added to himself, trying to be fair about it, it most likely wasn't her fault. She hadn't brought back a busload of muggers and rapists with her from her high and mighty life in Manhattan. No, she'd just brought her smart mouth and snippety way of putting her fists on her hips and staring like a goddamn water moccasin when she pretended to be listening to him. He couldn't think when he last made her blink. "I have got to get back on the 4-lane," the checker was singing as he stomped back inside. He was about to fire her on the spot when he realized she wasn't all that unattractive, if you were willing to ignore her stained teeth and rabbity eyes and lack of chin, and concentrate on her undeniably round breasts.
"Malva, is it?"
he said in a right friendly voice.
"Why don't you take yourself a little break in the lounge? I'll get us a couple of cans of soda and a box of cookies, and then you can sing me some more of that pretty song."
Malva wasn't fooled one bit, but she was dim-witted enough to think she might get a raise, along with the rise, out of him. "Whatever you say, Mr. Buchanan." His fingers tingling, Jim Bob took off for the Oreos.
"So that I can see Mama again," sang Perkins's eldest as she maneuvered the vacuum cleaner down the hallway and deftly turned into the living room, the electrical cord whipping behind her like a skinny black sidewinder.
"I wish she'd hush up," said Mrs. Jim Bob, a.k.a. Barbara Ann Buchanan, as she came back into the sunroom with a fresh pot of coffee. Her hair was brown and sensible, her face devoid of the devil's paint, her eyes mostly brown with only a few flecks of mustard. She wore a blue dress and freshly starched underwear in case there was some sort of untimely disaster and she found herself submitting her resume to the Lord. Elsie McMay gazed solemnly across the table. "Did you hear those hippies what own the hardware store are talking about closing up and moving away?" "It'd be a blessing if they did. They're lewd and lascivious, probably all sleeping in one bed. There's a fancy French name for what they do, but I'm too good a Christian to even know what it is. I told Brother Verber to go over there and give them a word of warning about eternal damnation, and he said he would, just as soon as he had the time." Her thin lips grew thinner as she thought this over. "I seem to recall that was more than 2 years ago." The mention of the pastor of the Voice of the Almighty Lord Assembly Hall led to a discussion of the latest uproar in the Missionary Society. Too many ballots in the box, and several cups of coffee. After Elsie left, Mrs. Jim Bob pulled on a sweater and went out to the front porch. It was a mite crumpy for November, maybe an ominous sign of things to come. If business was as bad as Jim Bob had sworn, then they were in trouble. He'd used all their savings to open the supermarket, even getting his hands on the nice little sum she'd inherited from great-uncle Arbutus Buchanan, who, for the record, was a Buchanan from her side of the family rather than Jim Bob's. As befitting the mayor's wife, she had the finest house in all of Maggody, a 2-story red brick structure on the top of a hill where everybody in town could see it, and a driveway that wound down to a gate with the letters J and B formed out of bricks and spanned by a wrought iron arch. But if the store went broke, they'd be lucky to have a rusty mobile home at the Pot of Gold. Mrs. Jim Bob was shivering as she went back inside to rinse out the coffee pot and have a stern word with Perkins's eldest about the baseboards. "When Mama lay a-dying on the flatbed," sang Estelle Oppers, although the words were muffled on account of the bobby pins wobbling between her lips. More were scattered across the counter among bottles of shampoo and conditioner, combs, hair nets, plastic and foam rollers, hair dryers, curling irons, and other accoutrements of the profession she ran out of her living room. Eileen Buchanan frowned at her reflection in the mirror as